And we are trying. I think I have still. We are recording the session. All the sessions will be uploaded. I'm just gonna fix the echo that I have.
I will start now the recording. So let's see now. Okay, so now we started the recording for the session. We are going to give here a transdisciplinary approach as part of the doctoral school, Armina. We first would like to thank everyone who attended this session as well. And we think we will start now as talk about the transdisciplinary approach. There's two options to do. You can raise your hand if you want to have a question, or you can wait in the session of the discussion. So I'm thinking that we speak 1 hour and then the second hour we open discussion, or if you feel that you need to raise hand, you can raise your hand during the discussion, and then I can really open for you to ask your questions. I think because it's a transdisciplinary approach, it's a good idea if you have a question, but when you do your questions, please make it precise, concise, to the point. Part of diplomacy, there's 3 things: precise, concise, to the point. Speaking for 1 hour does not mean that you have set your idea. It means that people who are listening to you got bored of your question. Speaking for half an hour about a question is also like, I got only the first part, the second part is gone. Third part is when you ask a precise question, concise, and you focus on the point that you want to raise, then you can get a right answer. So this is the word precise, concise, to the point, where it comes from. It's a part of diplomacy. In diplomacy, they tell you have to be precise, concise, to the point, and not just talk to talk. We're not a news agency, so that's how you have to differ yourself as a scientist from being a scientist and from being a news agency, as I say. So it's like, this is the difference between a person who speaks a lot and when a person who just says the point of not speaking 1 page. And this will help you as well in your doctoral thesis, where you write 10 pages, but you want to say 1 thing in the 10 pages that you write. Then you see that the 10 pages were canceled and you only have 1 sentence, which is really, this is what we are speaking about. So thank you so much. Any questions before I start? So thank you so much for attending. Today I will speak about transdisciplinary approach, introduction to transdisciplinary philosophy of science. So this is transdisciplinary, the word, it comes from transcend. Transcend is like to transform from one case to another case, from A to B. So when you transcend, you're working on the transformation. And what is transformation? How does it happen? There's 2 options to do. Transcending means you're going high. What I mean when going high, you are evolving, thriving, and becoming more intellectual in science. This is why they call transdisciplinary. We can speak about interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary. They're 2 different things. So I will now concentrate about transdisciplinary, but you can also ask questions if you want about interdisciplinary. I have no problem to answer both questions of that. But I will focus on transdisciplinary because this is where you will use it. When researching reconciliation, conflict transformation, and peace studies, you have to understand it's not interdisciplinary, it is transdisciplinary if you're doing a doctorate. If you are doing a research, it's an interdisciplinary. Why? When you are doing a doctorate, it's like it's what I'm creating something new to the science. I'm adding to the science. I'm not creating something new in my head and saying that something new nobody knows about. That's not science. Science is to add for humanity's knowledge. So we have started with knowledge. So knowledge is very important. So what is science? Science is knowledge. This is first thing. And what is knowledge? Is the literature review. So I have literature review. People who have literature review can develop science. People who does not have literature review, they cannot develop science. So this you have to understand that as a doctorate student, I need to have literature review. People don't understand, why do I read all those books? What do I need of them? Some of them I don't use them. The idea of reading many books is literature review to develop your knowledge. And this is very important. And from that knowledge, you have to pick up where you can build out of all the knowledges that you have. And if you have a research that you want to do, and you want to do it as a doctorate and a PhD, you have to check for the knowledge that you want to add. So maybe you read 5, 10 professors or 10 theoretical framework, and then you choose one of them to add the knowledge on that theoretical framework. In our session, in our theories of reconciliation, we use Professor Liner's theory, which is a Holder perspective, is reconciliation in the middle of conflict, where everything away starts coming back together in the center, from a minority into majority. So this is one of the most important things that I speak about, that doing restorative justice and reconciliation and transitional justice into the middle of conflict is about transforming the minority who wants peace into the majority. So you are not getting against the people who want war, you are transforming the people who want war into wanting peace. So it's not us or them, it's we. So when you want to talk about reconciliation, conflict transformation, and peace, you have to start thinking of we. And the most challenging aspect of it is transforming the people who are with you to understand that peace, and transforming the conflict actually into a direction of the thriving of peace. And this is very hard. It's not an easy task because there is emotions in it. There is heartbreaking, there is sorrows, there is suffering, there's a lot of stuff. There is revenge as well. There is a lot of stuff that people work on that they don't want to do peace with his brother or with his sister. You might think in terms of international relations of governments and all of that's a very good idea. But also you have to understand it also goes to social people, social sciences, not just politics. You can do it in economics. A lot of the warfare are economic warfare, like sanctions. The sanctions on many countries that's happened through the years, the sanctions on Russia, the sanctions on different countries because they don't listen to the United Nations, and they all gather together. It's just their privileges of what they want to do. So this is what you understand, that reconciliation, as there's sanctions for bad, you can also transform the economic warfare into a good economic warfare for the better of both communities or better of both societies. Who doesn't want his country to be like Singapore, for example, or Hong Kong, for example? Nobody. Hong Kong is still under occupation of the American army, and they are the most thriving economy in the world. So this one, people don't think of it, So thriving and developing yourself is you are transforming. So you're transforming from a person, from your inner to the outer. And this is what we are transcending. And this is where transdisciplinary happens. You don't stay where you are, you transform from A to B to C. So it's like it goes into phases. And when we thought about conflict transformation, I see the conflict, my point of view, is always transforming from one phase to the other. And it depends where you want to transform it. You can transform it into more war, or you can transform it into more reconciliation, restorative justice, transitional justice, to seek justice into the conflict. And by seeking justice into the conflict, you're transforming it. And how do I do that? So this is where we said that it's an overarching paradigm, what we call an overarching paradigm, that the reconciliation process can transform an overarching paradigm of the conflict. But you have to understand what kind of practices that you are doing. And those kind of practices is what you implement. So I can say, I want hope, I want peace, but I practice war. You will never get peace or reconciliation practices by practicing war. It's impossible. People, talk to me and told me about peace and war. And I understood that after war, they're becoming peace. I don't believe after war, there becomes peace. Sorry, that does not work. After war, you try to find another new practice that did not destroy you, and you try to implement a new practice to develop and evolve. So it's not coming peace. It's like you are transforming the war from the transformation of conflict into reconciliation, into peace. So this is what happens. So there is no war after war, there comes peace. If there's war and then you practice more war, then you will have no peace. So signing an agreement, for example, Oslo Agreement or other peace agreements, many peace agreements, South African peace agreement, the TRC, the TRC in South Africa did not reach peace or did not reach reconciliation, but they practiced it. They tried to practice. Practice is not an easy task. Practice is a very hard task. And we speak that practicing it is in the middle of conflict. And that's what we are in a very important thing to do, to practice it in the middle of conflict. So it's not an easy task, as I said. Mandela was not, he didn't live a very happy life promoting peace, because I can tell you something that I learned about Mandela's life. His wife wanted to assassinate him, and his assistant. Why? Because he promoted peace even in times of war. where they wanted to kill the white and they want to end this reconciliation process. And she really tried to assassinate him and his assistant, both of them, for trying to do peace. So Mandela didn't have a very easy way. Neither Martin Luther King did not have it either way. He was shot at the end. So working for peace is so hard. Not as people think, I'm doing peace, it's going to be very easy. No, it's not going to be easy. You're going to stop. Now, to us, you have hardliners. Those hardliners will not change their mind. They want to kill each other. So this is 100% is there. But what you can do, tell them what is the future. So their future in both of their eyes, both parties, is that they are thriving economy and they are thriving in peace and building their society. Now, this can never happen in war. In war, you cannot have a thriving economy. You cannot have a thriving education. You cannot have a thriving culture. In war, you cannot develop. It's impossible in war to develop. It's impossible. It's one of the most hardest thing to do. People can maybe say, okay, we are building ourselves and we're not going to build peace. And this is very difficult. It's not going to happen. Then you develop what we call apartheid, where you are living very happily and oppressing the other parties. And then you think the other parties deserve to be oppressed. And then the other part revenge against you because they don't learn anything else. They learn how to revenge from the apartheid of policies of segregation, policy for hardship, policies. There's many policies that happens in different, and not just I'm talking about one area. This policies of segregation, policy of hatred, hardship was happened in Colombia, happened in North and South Korea, happened in Rwanda, happened in East Africa, happened in South Africa, happens in different places in the world. So we cannot just say it's only in one place. It happened in Europe as well. In between, in Russia, when Russia occupied many of those countries that they not occupied, actually, it was part of the USSR, but they treated them very badly and implemented very bad policies that at the end they wanted to, leave the USSR and develop their own countries. This is now Russia wants them all back, but they cannot get them back because they treated them very badly when they used to rule them. So those are the practices. So why I'm talking about that? Because the practices are very important. So if you practice reconciliation and peace, the methods, strategies, and reconciliation, trying to transform the conflict, you get to a different reality. Like I can talk the North Ireland process, it was a different reality, not the same reality as, so I was in Dublin at Trinity College where I understood that the Irish still hate each other, even with this, and they hate the Brits as well, and they are willing to continue the war. But what happened to them in Bloody Sunday is that they killed so many British as diplomats and generals, and they got so many killed out of themselves as well. So one of these problems, they said, today with reconciliation, they have a new reality. They have a thriving economy. So with reconciliation, now they refuse to go back. Even the hatred is still there, but the benefit is more with reconciliation than with war. So this is the Irish case, actually. And you can read the Irish case. It's very important, by the way. One of the most important cases is the Irish case of North Ireland. It's very important to read and to understand it, because it's like you will understand that with the reconciliation process becomes a new reality for both parties, and this reality cannot be changed. You cannot cancel what reconciliation happens, because reconciliation works on the benefit of the two societies. And when the two societies start benefiting from it, even that they hate each other, they want to keep the benefit and they want to destroy the other, but they cannot destroy the other because their benefit will go away with it. So they got stuck. So this is what happens. They thrived. What I mean by thriving, transcend. And from that, I go back to transdisciplinary approach. It's a philosophy. It's an Aristotelian philosophy. I can give you also the book, show you the book of that based on this theory. The book is for Nicomachean Ethics. It's you have it? No, let me just say what it is. Nicomachean Ethics. It is here somewhere. So let me try. Here it is. So if you want to read about this philosophy, not about the transdisciplinary approach, from where it comes, this is book. This is the book, as you see. Now we can hear. Hello.
Maybe from this camera.
No, this camera has this background. So this is the book, Aristotelian Nicomachean Ethics. So this is one of the books that I wanted to show you. So this book describes the philosophy of Aristotelian, how to transcend your own society, the philosophy of transcending your society. So So let's go here. And now let's see where it comes from. So I'm going to read this. It's applied phonetic approach. Applied phonetic, it's applied phorone says, it means wisdom and to gain the wisdom. So what he says, this is from the Nicomachean Ethics book. This is real Aristotelian, it's 4,000 years ago. So this is what's translated, of course, in English from Latin. And Latin was translated from Arabic from Ibn Rushd. So this is how it got to us. So you know how this traveled from the Andalus. So this is like a very old text. So it takes you a very long time to understand the text, but it's very nice to interact how we based our knowledge and our everything to philosophy. If you base it to philosophy, then you can build. So here what he says, we may grasp the nature of prudence. Prudence here, he says, it's wisdom. Phorone says, if we consider what sort of people we call prudent, if we can understand who are the wisdom people, well, it is thought to be the mark of a prudent man. So it is a mark. Mark, you know what does mark mean? Of a prudent man to be able to deliberate rightly. It's like the man who is marked that he has wisdom, the wise man, you can understand that he can deliberate rightly, in the right way, truthfully, with no prejudice about what is right and advantageous. Now he speaks, the wisdom person speaks about what is right and what is advantageous. Advantageous means the thriving, what is good for you, what is good for the society. But nobody deliberates about things that are invariable. But the problem, when you start your debate, you debate about something that does not exist in your hand. You cannot touch. This is part of why it's very hard to understand and grasp, because you cannot touch it. It's not there. So when you create your project or you create your research, it's not there, but you can touch it. You cannot touch it. It's in your head. But you can deliberate about it in a very wise manner. You know how to understand it and how to talk about it. So this is part of what it is. So prudence cannot be science or art. So in that point, he said prudency, wisdom that you cannot touch, or knowledge, it's not science and it's not art. So not science, episteme. Science means episteme, epistemer, which is mean knowledge, because what can be done is variable. Because in science, you know, the natural science, what can be done, there is it's a variable that it may be done diverse ways or not done at all. That's in natural science. And not art. Art, what he means by art. So let's go back to episteme. Episteme is like the know-how. It's the know-how, knowledge of the know-how. So let's say wisdom is not know-how. So this is what he's trying to tell you, that if you want to become a wise person, knowing all the encyclopedia does not make you wise, because it's just you know stuff. But you are not wise because you're not using it in the right way. So now this is where we get the art. Art is technique. This is the how-to. So you have the know-how, which is knowledge, and the how-to, and this is the art. Our technique, because the action and production are generally different. Why? Because now he's telling you that the action, which is the practice or the how-to, can produce something different than the knowledge. So if you have the knowledge, let's say, and then you have the practice, and then when you practice your knowledge, the outcome is different than the knowledge. So you say that people that have experience are more than the people who doesn't have experience. From this, you can get it, that the people who have experience are more knowledgeable. Why? Because they have practiced that experience. But if you did not practice that experience, you cannot have that knowledge of experience. And now here is how it goes. He's adding practice and experience at the same time. So what is experience? It's about practice and knowledge to combine together. And then you have a different production. For production aims to an end other than itself, but this is impossible in case of action, because the end is merely doing well. So he's saying, but this is impossible in case of action because the end is merely doing it. So anyone who wants to do a new production, he's doing something good because he wants to thrive. Whether I am the killer or I am the victim or I'm the predator, I am doing something good. So as you see, where all happens in conflict, like the dehumanize. Why do people dehumanize each other? Because they want to do good. They want to say the others are bad and I am good. I'm doing well. So what if you can make them both do well? So that's the difference in conflict. In conflict that goes to war and animosity and hatred, it's where the two has dehumanize each other. And with those dehumanization, I say I am very bad about you and your culture and your society and your people and even your religion. And at the same time, I say how I am good because this is good for me and for my country to do this to you. So this is what they want. So the thing I want you to understand, that's doing well. So everyone is thriving, whether he is the killer or the victim, they're thriving to doing well and good. And this is where you have in conflict, you have to tell two people what is good for both. What is good for both is what two people can have a common future. Otherwise, if they don't, they can keep killing each other and having conflict. And what he says as well, we consider that this quality belongs to those who understand and manage the household or estate. So he says people who work this actually and applies this philosophy are people who are working in governments or people who are leaders. Because leaders and people who work in government or people who are in social activity to promote people's wellness and good life and solve problem solutions, they do that because they're trying to get what is really doing well. Doing well is like not the best. So reconciliation, it's a process. It's not something that, again, when I was in Jordan, between the Jordanian army and the Israeli army, actually, they were doing some workshops on reconciliation to understand each other, I can tell you. So it's the goodwill between them is the only thing that they want to protect the lands, everyone wants to protect what they have. But they are interested to do that in a good way. But what is common between them is the river and the water. So this was the common thing with them, and they had to decide how to take the best amount of water for each country without taking more than what the other country needs. So this is the water crisis between them, with the Jordanian Palestinians and Israelis, and it was very difficult to them to understand how does it work. And it was very interesting how reconciliation can help, that you take this amount of water, you take this amount of water, and you take this amount of water, and it was registered at the United Nations. So this is how people, this is reconciliation. People don't understand what is reconciliation process. It's a process of developing the future of the common good of societies that are in conflict. The conflict does not mean it's bad. There's many conflicts around the world, conflict crisis. But how to deal with that crisis is to find the common good of our future for both parties that are in town. And this is how I started with the transcending methods. So part of the book of the transcendent that's very good to read is Making Social Science Matter Again. It's Bint Fleuve-Bjerg. This guy is the chair of the mega research project at the University of Oxford. I studied with him, took many courses with him actually, and I graduated from his work as well at Oxford Global Academy. And we create books. We do this research, applied for research into mega research projects. So one of the projects that we worked on was on the Olympics, the Japanese Olympics. And the idea was to understand why the Japanese Olympics got bankrupted. So this, I don't want to go more into that, but the concept of applied phronesis, he tells you here in this book how it can be implemented in social science. And he called it Making Social Science Matter Again. And this, this is another book, Real Social Science, Applied Phronesis, this Real Social Sciences. So if you want to understand how to implement applied phronesis, this wisdom philosophy of transdisciplinary approach, you can also read this book. It will really tell you how in practice it's being done. So it's a very interesting book, very, very important, by the way. And then this is another book, important book. It's the Handbook of Transdisciplinary Research. It's a very hard book to read, not an easy book, but it's it has a lot of information we will discuss, because it talks about transdisciplinary approach and how it got evolved into research and how it is implemented. And you can find it online as well. So here you can find something how it is implemented. This was taken from that book, actually, the hand, so we can discuss it as well. So transdisciplinary has three parts always. Transdisciplinary, if you want to think of transdisciplinary. So the first part is you have to problem analysis. So you have to analyze the problem, determine what forms of thematic, the theme, collaboration, and organization are adequate to take into account different interests and circumstances. So this is what you have to understand, the circumstances and differences of it. So this is the analysis of your own problem. So the reason we are doing transdisciplinary, I can give you to the end why we do it. We do it because we need a problem-solving mechanism process. So usually for a lifetime, the problem mechanism solving process for a lifetime means that it will continue working after I finish, after I go. So this is one of what we do. So to do it, you have to understand what is the problem. To understand what is the problem, you have to do an analysis. What is the analysis in that term? You have the themes you have to analyze. What are when he says collaboration, the thematic, the entities that are working into those themes, and the organization and the adequate of taking into account different interests. So what's the interest of each parties? So you want to do problem analysis. So after the problem analysis, problem identification and structure. So there's a structure where I want to take this, where it will evolve. You know, like taking into account, okay, so I have the problem, I did analysis of the problem, then I need to check the knowledge of that problem. Who had this problem before? How did they fix that problem? What problem they had before? What is the process they did? What is the mechanism they did? What is the strategy they did in working on this problem? And once I see the knowledge of how others worked when I had this problem, I can get some knowledge about that problem and how to tackle this problem. And then since I know how to tackle this problem and go to what we bring results to fruition, is then I start practicing the technique part. So now I have the problem analysis, and then I did problem structure. And then I went and what do I mean by problem identification and structure? Problem identification means that I go and understand where the literature review, I'm going to tell you, literature review of the problem. So many problems were happened in the world using this method, and how did they work it out? What is it? How did they do it? Identification, identify the problem. So you know more information about the problem, and then you have the structure. Then you can create a structure through the analysis. And then you want to bring it to fruition. Fruition means the role of lifetime solve-problem mechanism. This is what means fruition. Like why I call it solve-problem mechanism, because it's a mechanism that goes on and on and on, and it does not stop. So this is what you want to do, because when I have the knowledge, or when I have the problem analysis, I have then identified the problem, I have structured the problem through the identification and the analysis, then I can understand what should I do to click it, to make it start, to direct it, to transform it into the direction that I want. So if I want to direct it to peace, I will go to peace. If I want to direct it to war, I go to war. And when I direct it to war, I'd make tanks, attack, and do it. This is my direction, is war. The direction of peace is a different one. So and they do not collide. So this is where we start again when I said people want to do it. So told me that after war there is peace. No, there's no peace. After war there's conflict transformation. And if you don't practice peace, there's not going to be peace or reconciliation. You can sign an agreement and don't practice nothing. That will not bring peace. This is what happens in all the peace agreements that were signed in Colombia, for example, in Brazil, and many peace processes that they sign a lot about, and nothing happens. They don't understand why nothing happened. Okay, we signed an agreement, and then what? We did not practice for peace. I signed an agreement, and then I work against you, against your economy. I work against your people, your education, your culture. I erase your identity. I do all those policies that integrate into that, and that's not peace. And then I tell you, we are for hope and peace. That's not going to work. So then what happens? You have problem analysis, problem identification, structure, but the fruition, you're not doing the structure toward reconciliation or peace. You're doing the structure toward war. And then atrocities, crisis, and this is where it goes. And it will go that way. It will not go the other way. And even the revenge goes to war, doesn't go to peace. People say, we will do war now and tomorrow will be peace. No, it's not going to happen that way. You need to develop conflict transformation. And to develop conflict, it's upon you. Like in the Irish case, it was upon the Irish to do reconciliation with their enemies. Their enemies are Irish, by the way. Irish who supports the British, and Irish who supports Irish freedom. So the reconciliation was to understand how the best common future for both, that they would accept, to sit together and to raise that they will not kill each other again. So this is one of, so maybe someone has any questions. Let me see. I don't know. So I don't know why this happened like that. Okay. So I still have another 15 minutes. I don't know if there's any questions available. Are the books in the library? I think so, yes. There are many identified. Okay, so now I think those are not that questions. Okay, so this is where this was taken from the book, from this book, Handbook of Transdisciplinary Approach. So I want to go here. I still have 15 minutes. Let's say emergence of transdisciplinary as a form of research. So let's talk about the form of research. So you have the basic research, and then you have the applied research, and then you have the transdisciplinary research. So these are the three kinds of research that you would do in your doctoral research. So the first one is you have the basic research. What you do really exactly is, I can also make it bigger for you and for myself. Okay, so basic research. You have the basic research, you have scientific discipline, which is economy, ethics, biology, molecular biology or ecology. And then the problem field, poverty. Here's the problem. See, poverty, land, degradation, diseases, hunger. And then you have actors. Actors is the practice, as you see. Actors mean practice. Actors is to develop a practice. And now we're at what he says, actors in life world. Life world means that we are doing something for life. Usually, if you want your PhD to continue for a lifetime, you need to do something that affects the real world. If you don't do that, you just do your PhD to do your PhD. That's totally different. So what happens if I do biology? I want to tackle poverty, land, study the degradation and diseases and hunger. So then I can write how biology, molecular biology, can affect that. And then I write how it can affect the private sector and how it can affect the civil society or public agencies. In the applied sciences, applied research, you have the scientific discipline, like economics, let's say. Let's take economy, it can fix poverty, land in economics, buy and sell land, diseases, hunger. And then you can also, you see that the private sector, now economy does not, how does it affect the private sector? It does not. What it does, the private sector affects the economy. It goes back in two phase. So this is like how it works. You have actors of real life. And the last one is transdisciplinary research. So land disciplinary research, what happens, you have economic, ethics, biology, ecology all together, tackling poverty, land, degradation, diseases, hunger at the same time, and affecting the private civil society, public, because it's creating something new all for everyone. So it's not attacking one single one or two, attacking one discipline. So it's like multidisciplinary now. It happens that it becomes multidisciplinary. As you see, many disciplines are interacting. The interdisciplinary, as you see, it's applied research, and it's two disciplines interacting. And number two, simple research is one discipline researching. So this is like the basic of, you have one basic research, interdisciplinary research with two disciplines working together to develop something, to tackle a problem, and to develop a problem to see the actors. And then you have the transdisciplinary approach. The transdisciplinary approach is that you have the scientific discipline, and then you have multiple disciplines interacting, and then you have they are acting for several problems, but they're acting together. So there's something common between them, and they're actors in life world. So this is how it is. This is the three things I wanted to talk about, and then we'll talk more about transdisciplinary approach here. And what happens here is like, so as we talked before, as you see, the milestones in transdisciplinary research. Milestones is three knowledge. You have system knowledge, target knowledge, and action knowledge. And three are interconnected together. So the system knowledge, as we say, it's a current situation and the problem that you want to solve. You make identification for it, for the knowledge. This is where system knowledge, full system knowledge of the problem. And then the target knowledge is where you want to go with this knowledge. So it's what you're researching, the hypothesis, or this is where you want to go. But how can you go there is the action knowledge. So the action knowledge has to get you to the target knowledge and what we call implementation. So as you see, system knowledge goes to action knowledge goes to target knowledge. Now, with the transdisciplinary approach, it transforms, it goes into spiral, where target knowledge, when you have a target knowledge, means that you got a new knowledge. This new knowledge gets you to another knowledge, another action, and that action adds to the system knowledge. So this is the doctorate. This is the PhD. So you have a problem. You have got all the knowledge about that problem. That's the system knowledge. And then you have your hypothesis, where you want to go. It's the target knowledge. And then you have the actions and the knowledge of that, how to get to that there. You do that actions. And then you have to connect them all together. You connect the first time, the first loop, and then you get to the target knowledge. The second loop, the target knowledge goes back to action knowledge because you have a new knowledge. It's not the same knowledge as the old knowledge. As you see, as the philosophy state, you have a new knowledge. With this new knowledge, you have a new action. And with the new action, you have a new system knowledge. So it went back. And with the new system knowledge, you have a new action. And from new action, you have a new target. And once you go into that loop for several times, 3-4 times, it starts working by itself. And you start creating something new with your ideology. As you see here, what he did now, he transformed it into target knowledge, system knowledge, transformation knowledge. We went now, what we are talking about, now we have evolved from simple basic research to applied research, which is interdisciplinary, he was working out, and then into transdisciplinary research, where we now have a loop of knowledge transformation. So the knowledge transformation happens in three parts: system, target, and transformation. So you have the target, you have the system, and you have the transformation knowledge. As you see, target knowledge, system knowledge, and transformation knowledge. So with this, I have only 8 minutes. This is my book. Actually, I can give it to, and I think I sent it to everyone about it. And I think by this, actually, I go back to this to like maybe elaborate some 8 minutes about it, and then we can take a break, and then we can take questions and answers about this philosophy. So as you know, transform knowledge and target knowledge and system knowledge are three different things, as we see. So let's say which would you start with? System knowledge or transformer knowledge and target knowledge? This now it's flipped. From my point of view, as a doctoral research, it's the best to start from the system knowledge and then get to understand what is the target knowledge, and then do the action knowledge, the transformation action. So this is uncertain knowledge about the genesis and possible development of the problem, about problem interpretation, depending on perception, goals, options of change. The challenge here is to reflecting on the dealing with uncertainties through real-world experiments. So the knowledge that you want to do, when you want to do a research, you are in our case, in our doctoral research, we are fixing a problem that affects the real-world experiment. It's a real-world experiment. It's a doctorate degree, and with this you can understand where is the problem, how you are affecting the real world. When you say how you are affecting the real world, you try to create a system knowledge. If you know you're not uncertain for anything, it always comes like that. You're uncertain, and then you go to the target knowledge, pluralism of norms and values, depending on the views of system relations and options for change. So you have to seek where the options of change are. So how you change them. He says the challenge to get there is clarification and priority settings of various values in relation to the common good as a regulatory principle. So as you see, common good. Here we're not talking about reconciliation, peace studies, or we're talking about science. So now I'm moving it from reconciliation, peace studies, whatever. You can apply it in biology. You can apply it in computer science. Why? Because you are clarifying priority of settings of various values in relation to common good. Any programmer who wants to program, he needs the common good to program, to make a program that really helps society. Then the program has to be clarified, identified, the values of that program depending on views of system relations. System relations is like where you want to go, how it's going to affect. This is the target, where you're going. Now, after you have the target and you have the system, you need to connect them together. The connection happens with transformation knowledge. So you transform. Transformation knowledge is very important. Is the how-to. If you remember, we spoke about the know-how is system knowledge. The how-to is not the target knowledge. The how-to is transformation knowledge. This is the how-to. The target knowledge is the outcome, where we say reconciliation process, or conflict transformation, or peace studies, or my own research. Target, a hypothesis of the research. So this is what really is going on. So in transforming knowledge, see what he wrote: technical, the how-to, social, it might be legal, cultural, Other option of change, I would say IT as well, internet communication technologies, applications used to develop transformation. So, for example, I can say that dehumanization. You can use social media, which is using application to dehumanize the other that you are in conflict with. And this is very well used. You create your own forum, and you bring all the people who hate the others, and you start, putting all this stuff in it. But the direction of targeted of this will not get you to peace or reconciliation. The conflict transformation is for more atrocities. Like if you speak, you make. I was one of the people who closed ISIS Facebook pages. Actually, I closed 3 ISIS Facebook pages. I am really proud of that because to me, what they promoted was not religion or Islam or any of this. They were like exactly promoting killing anyone who are against their views, for example. But then how they did it, they were very professional. They made videos and movies, and they can put you to touch your heart, as a Muslim or as a person who this is how they do it. This is how they recruit people. They show you the atrocities of the other. They create the system knowledge first, showing the atrocities of the other, then telling you what to do. What is the target, where they want to get? Where they want to get is creating the full Islamic empire. So this is their target knowledge. And the transformation where you happen from the system knowledge is how to do it. They tell you, go up into Turkey, go up to north between Syria and Turkey, and then enter from there. There's a group there. You tell them that you want to enter, and they will help you to enter. And this is where a lot of people went. And this is how they got transformed into radicalism. It was very simple. It's very simple. System knowledge, target knowledge, transformation knowledge, and then boom, we are recruiting half of the Muslim people into it. And this is what happened to many other organizations that happens, not just in this. So this is how we work it. Here is the challenge: learning how to make existing technology, regulations, practices, and power relations more flexible. Remember, there is power relations. Power relation through Nietzsche. If you read Nietzsche, it's power relation. Nietzsche said about power relation, and here what happens, according to Bennett Flubiger in his book, and my book, we call it ultra-dynamic powers. You go now more into Nietzsche if you want to go more into philosophy of what is the power relation, but then what the best thing is to understand the ultra-dynamic powers is very important, because what happens actually between all those 3 dilemmas is what we call the ultra-dynamic power. Why you call it ultra? Because it keeps changing. Why do you call it dynamic? Because the power of dynamics changes. Something that people don't understand about doing reconciliation, it changes the balance. Doing reconciliation is not that I now peace with my enemy. No, peace with your enemy is not reconciliation. Peace with your enemy is just waiting to make war again. A treaty. That's a treaty. That's not peace. So reconciliation and peace processes are different. Reconciliation is a practice, and the practice, it transforms this knowledge and develop the power relation. The power relation between the enemy and the predator, let's say, and the victim. Let's say the predator is stronger always than the victim. But then the predator wants something from the victim, and the victim can't give that thing until he gets what he wants, to remove some of the power of the predator. And this always happens, that the predator loses power. For example, South Africa, the predator loses, the white people and their, the party lost its power. Even though they have the weapons, they have everything, they lost the power. Why? Because reconciliation has made balance. And this is where the power relation and the balance keeps existing in one condition, is that if the victim takes all the power for himself and refuses to share it with a predator, he breaks the cycle. And once the cycle is broken, you cannot continue the reconciliation, it stops. And this is where, like, I will give the balance, the predator will give the balance to the victim has to give the balance back. It's not easy. It's not easy for the predator or for the victim. They're both having a big problem with that. But once they do it, it's when the cycle starts, they cannot stop it anymore. They lose power, they gain power, lose power, gain power, lose power. It builds what we call trust. And then they understand that the dynamics of power changes. It does not stay as it is. And this is what people know. This is what they know in international relations and in politics. So I think by now we are at the end of our hour, actually. And I can tell you just a seek of where it goes. where what we do, I do applied Phoenicius, transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and then I apply to ethnography approach, and then I do mixed method research design. You have a digital humanities. I do qualitative content analysis and QA, computer assisted computational qualitative analysis software. This is NVivo, there is Atlas, this is how you can do your all doctorate research. You can depend that if you're using ICT for stuff, and you can also use my book for it, but this is how I did in this. And I thank you so much for listening. I don't want to more, I would like, because I spoke enough, I guess. Maybe we can now open debate. Maybe we have, how much time you want to relax? 10 minutes, and then we come back. Okay, 10 minutes. I guess 10 minutes is okay. So I'll see you in 10 minutes. I drink coffee and I come back to you. Well, thank you so much for listening.
Where you were talking about?
To them. So, sorry,